Hello, today we're going to make a jellyfish earring or two, and I've got everything here that you'll need. A 2.5mm hook, you'll need some crochet cotton, but the thin stuff. Mine's from DMC. I will link everything that I can in the description. I've got my trusty scissors, darning needle, stitch marker. You'll need the earrings, the dangly earrings. You can get them, the links below. I've got some seed beads because I found they're better than the safety eyes. You'll need some normal thread matching and just a normal needle to sew the eyes on. How cute are they? You could do it in any colour you want, obviously. So without further ado, I shall zoom in so you can see this better, and you need to get started with 2 chain. So there's 1 and 2, and then into the second chain from the hook, you're going to do into the top strand of that 6 double crochets. I'm working in UK terms as usual. If you are only familiar with American terms, you just need to know that that's a single crochet. So 6 in here, whichever language you work in. Try not to pull them too tight. So that's my 6, and I'm just going to pop my stitch marker in the first one so it doesn't disappear, and then I'm going to pull tight this tail yarn so we've got more of an idea that it's a circle. So this is the top of the jellyfish's head, and into this one, where the stitch marker is, can you see into there? We're going to do 2 double crochets. So let me pull it out, and then straight in so we don't lose it. We do 2 double crochets. So this is the start of round 2, and we're increasing, and then pop your stitch marker straight back in that one so you know that's where we start the next round. So in there again, so 2 double crochets into each stitch round. And this is just simple amigurumi, really satisfying. I've got loads of videos on this kind of thing. So make sure by the end of this round you've got 12 stitches. And then we're going to pull that tail end a tad tighter. Now we've got more fabric, and that'll tighten that central hole up. You can also do this with a magic ring. It's just never been my preferred way of doing it. This just does the same job. So there's the top of its head, and so we're going on to round 3 now, which is still increasing. So into your stitch marker space we go 1 double crochet, and then same thing again, pop your stitch marker so we don't lose where we are. So 1 and then 2 in this next one. And then 1 and then 2. So I'm going to meet you back at the stitch marker. So this is your pattern 1 and then 2, and just check by counting the top V's that you've got 18 by the time we meet back at the stitch marker. Okay, so that's the end of round 3. So on to round 4, same thing again, stitch marker out, claim your next start of your next round. You're going to need this tail end, so leave it dangling, and it can get in the way on small things. Stitch marker back in. So this round, which is round 4, it will start shaping. So you need 1 double crochet into each stitch going round, and that will start shaping its head to go downwards. So 1 double crochet all the way around for round 4, and I'll meet you back at the stitch marker. So that was round 4, and so we're on to round 5, same thing again. So join, stitch marker back in, and then round 5 is exactly the same, 1 double crochet into each stitch. That will start having a mind of its own and start curling all kind of which ways. So just let it do its thing, keep your tension as same as you can, and I'll see you back at the stitch marker. So it should be at something like this now, where it's curved quite nicely. So pull out a long loop, take your hook out, and we're going to grab your eyes. This is where the eyes go in. So if you have got some tiny safety eyes, you can put them in there between rows 4 and 5. And I'm going to pop in my seeds, and I'm going to sew them in here. If you want to do French knot, you could do it at this point as well. So I'm going to pop one kind of there, grab the seed, and I've never been a great sewer, so excuse me, I'll just make it up. There we go. These make the cutest little eyes. Kind of little frog-like, beady little eyes. So go ahead and sew your eyes on, or put your safety eyes in, and I'll meet you back here when that's done. Okay, I'm quite glad you didn't see me doing that, because it was quite fiddly getting the second one on. So back to our safe space of crocheting. Let's take out the stitch marker, and this is a really magic round that kind of brings it all together. So we're going to work in the back loops only on this round. So double crochet, pop your stitch marker back in, and double crochet in the back loop all the way round. But instead of doing a normal double crochet, you're gonna do 2 together. So let me take that out again. So we're gonna do back loops. So you've seen now where the back loops are, but we're gonna do back loop and decrease 2 together. So back loop there, catch hold, and then we're going to go through all of those 3 together, and that's where your stitch marker goes in. Okay, so by the end of this round we should have got 9 stitches. So back loop there, back loop there, catch hold, pull through all three. Back loop, through all three. Back loop, through all three. So can you see how it's pulling in your work? And it's leaving a little ledge as well, which we need to be able to crochet into. At the end of it, to give it its little frill. Can you see that? That frill is worked into that ledge. So back loop, pull that together, and then back loop, and pull that together. So now what we're going to do now is slip stitch into this space here where the stitch marker was, and then you are going to fasten off and pull that in. Okay, so that how cute. Right, this one actually you can tuck in and it works. So the first tail yarn you can now tuck in and it works as a little bit of stuffing. And then you will need this one to sew round. So the next thing you're going to do is your tentacles. So the way you do these is very simple. So grab your crochet cotton again, and we're going to make 12 chains. And if you want to double up your yarn, just to give them a bit of weight, bit more weight, you can do. So make 8 of these, which are 12 centimeters, 12 chains long. Cut each one off, and then I'll meet you back and I'll show you how to pop them on. You don't even have to sew them on. Get them onto the jellyfish's bottom. So I'm just finishing off my 8th one. I decided to go 2 strands because it just makes it a little bit weightier. So chop that off, and then I'm going to zoom out for this section. So I've got 8 kind of tentacles. So the way we do these is into the bottom of your jellyfish. You pop your hook through and grab the top of one, pull it through, and I've done it the wrong way. Hang on, yeah, I've done it the wrong way around, sorry. Go from the inside, 3D brain's not working, and then pull it through. I've only got 1 strand. Not demonstrating this very well. Right, okay, so you've got one there, and then into the next one along, the next stitch along, grab another one. And then all we're going to do is tie these two together. And then you just tie these two together. Just a normal knot. And then chop a bit off. And you can tuck that in. So this is free stuffing. It's free filling. You don't have to buy any or find anything else. There we are. So let's do that again. Hopefully I'll make a better job of it this time. So grab your, make sure you're using the top one, pull through. Just pull the ends through. That's one, and then one in here. And then same again, just knot them together. And then I've done them the wrong way around again, haven't I? Goodness me, what is wrong with me today? Right, go from the inside out. Let's try that. Inside, and then we're pulling it through to the middle. There we go. See, YouTube crafting. What fun. So, there we go. I got my angles of my dangles wrong. Just same again, knot them together. And when you've done all of those, meet me back at the end and I'll show you how to finish off here, and I'll show you how to put the little frill on it. So my little jellyfish has all its 8 tentacles, and then I've just attached the darning needle, and we're just going to go through and sew up this bottom hole by just going through the front loop and just pulling gently as we go, and this will close up the bottom of it. And then all we need to do is the frill and join the earring. And obviously I've already made one. I've got loads more of these if you want to subscribe and watch my creativity unleash itself, even though it's a bit messy at times. Right, that is, I can see a stray strand coming out, but I can poke that back in. So make sure it's all looking like it should. I'm just going to sew that in a couple of places so it's secure, and we can chop that off. And these ends of your tentacles, you can either do them all in one go or go through them separately and just snip them off like that. And you could save this for future projects. So for the frill, grab your cotton again, and we need to start on the underside of your jellyfish. So grab your hook and your yarn again. So if you look at the back of it, you can see the ridge that we talked about earlier. So all you need to do is find, can you see where it's got a join here? So join on the right hand side just with a slip stitch. This makes a really effective ridge. And then from that slip stitch, we're going to do one chain and then a slip stitch back into that same space. So on the bigger ones, you would do a double crochet here, but because we're working with such tiny scale, it's got to be a slip stitch. So that's the smallest one we can do. And then we do slip stitch into the next, can you see the front loop here? Slip stitch into there, and then a slip stitch into the next one. So 2 slip stitches, subsequent ones, and then we do the little chain thing again. So into the third one, we go slip stitch, and then we do a chain, and then we do a slip stitch into that same stitch, and that gives it that, can you see this pointy jutty out bit? Just gives it a bit of dimension. So 2 single slip stitches. Thank you for bearing with me, by the way. It's been quite a fiddle to look through my glasses and the lens, but here we are. We've got a cutesy earring. I'm very happy. So yeah, I'm trying to build the channel, and any little subscribe or like will help me grow the channel and bring you more content. I really would appreciate that. So we do two single ones, and then we do the one with the frill bit. So you go single crochet in, one chain, single crochet into the same stitch, and single crochet in, and then a single, and then let me know in the comments if you have managed to do this in its tiny scale. You might have made a tinier one. I mean, hats off to you if you have. So one, we're nearly back at the beginning, and then we can have a look at it in all its glory. One, and this is the one where we go a flicky out bit back in there, and then I think just that one, and then we're back to the beginning, and we can just slip stitch into that first chain back round there, just to make it secure. So this yarn in this light is starting to look a bit silver, which I love. It's kind of a silver grey yarn, love it. So we can fasten that off, we can sew in that end and that end, And then we can get our little fastening. I swear, whose fingers are this small? And then attach it. And I'm not going to be able to do that without pliers. I'll pop off and add it on and then come back and show you. And I'm just going to sew the ends in and I'll show you the finished thing. Hurrah, it's done. Well, that was a fiddle. I hope yours went more smoothly than mine. But you get the idea. Here's my other one that I made earlier. So we've got a pair of earrings and I love them. So let me know in the comments how easy, difficult you found that. And I'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching.